We are live. Hello and welcome to the Lanfest live stream on streaming when it comes to technology, hardware, any questions you have involved streaming. My name is Tessa Merrill and I am your host. And I am the
Was here first.
and the bearded berserker. So go
Already
ahead.
going there.
Let's let's go ahead and do a round of introductions, starting with Magical Source.
Hi, I go by Magical Zorse, or Chris when there's not 12 Chris's in the room. So, background on Landfest, chairman of the board for like 6 months, board of directors since 2016. One of the two crazy people who run the Austin chapter with wrong that direction, that guy. And kind of done a little bit of everything when it comes to Landfest. My experience in this kind of thing is I work for a company called RTS, where we do events, gaming events specifically professionally. So a lot of that is main broadcasts and stages. We do all of the PAX arenas, a whole bunch of stuff at DreamHack. We did TwitchCon stuff, all of that sort of stuff. So we've done a lot of different broadcast stuff. Recently, I've put a huge amount of time into taking what we've done at in-person event and turning it into a remote solution as in-person events aren't happening.
Great, thank you. And how about the bearded berserker?
Hey, so I didn't put my name in here, but I'm also Brian Shaw. I go by the Bearded Berserker. Hey, you, that guy over there, whatever you want to call me, pretty much, I'll answer to. I've been with Landfest, golly, going like 7, 8 years now. I've been gaming since, early 90s, mainly console. Didn't join the PC master race until like about 7 years ago when I actually got a gaming computer. And so I split time between gaming on console and gaming on PC. I am the streaming director for Landfest, and I'm the other crazy Austin chapter rep. And I can't wait for us to get in-person events again.
Awesome. Me too. I'm feeling the same way. And Stylomax.
Hi, I'm Chris number two, aka Stylomax. Also, been with Landfest for several years now. First started off with the Colorado chapter, where I'm still one of the volunteer admins there, helping with getting networks set up, helping folks with their PCs, etc. Came on board the national team originally to help with the community team in specifically with Discord. I then later on began helping. Well, I am the community manager at this point in time. Insofar as streaming goes, streaming experience, helped run a number of smaller streams, getting helping folks get set up with how to set up their mics, how to set up their webcams, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Audio levels and what have you. So it's I'm not haven't been doing it on a professional basis, but I've been doing it for a few years now at this point, helping other smaller streamers get set up.
Awesome. Thank you. So we are here to contribute to the community, the Lanfest community, the people here that are viewers. If anyone has any burning questions or questions in general related to streaming, that's not as generic as like how to stream. We're here to answer questions. Other than that, we can start out by like, what is your setup? How long have you been doing any kind of streaming, and what do you stream? That would be I think, a good start. Magical source?
Okay, so personally, I don't actually stream for the most part. I'm the behind the scenes guy. So what I do is I build out the. Well, here, let me just do this. So I'll temporarily show you how messy my apartment is. Um, so this is
Oh,
is
cool.
my setup. Um, Basically, we've got 5 systems, all sending through video signals through NDI between each other to facilitate like your big, huge esports broadcast, that sort of thing.
Ooh,
So that's kind of my setup.
it's
Granted,
like a robot.
um,
That is not
I
an
don't.
LCD screen. That's a reflection, right?
Yeah, it is a reflection. That's why the shield sits there, because our Landfest president caught me playing video games during a meeting once because of the reflection. So the shield
What?
sits there, so you can't see the reflection.
So what do you got in that bad boy?
So the big facilitator of all of this is the 10 gig switch. It's got fiber to all of the systems. It also has a 300 gig backbone. So when you're really messing around with a lot of NDI, like a lot of NDI, which NDI is sending your video streaming through a network connection, is the shortest and simplest way I can put that. And it's very much raw, uncompressed stream. So you need that big, heavy duty backbone. Then we have a number of different systems that kind of build into this. So we have what I call the tech director one. This is going to be the person who's switching the scenes, managing the sources, that sort of thing. We have an audio one in there that person basically and this is all through vMix. We basically send the audio through that machine so that person can manage the audio levels to leave the tech director to do the video stuff. They also generally manage the vMix calls, which is the equivalent of kind of what we're doing here, getting the talent in via like a video call type setup. We have a replay machine. That's really important for games like Valorant, Counter-Strike, anything that has a lot of really fast-paced gameplay, and then times we have to fill. So Valorant's the big example right now. Is if you've played Valorant enough, you've got the buy rounds and the buy phases, which are really boring. So what you do is you take someone taking those short, like 2-second, 3-second clips of really cool kills, and we play them during that time to keep the kind of the action going and keeping everything up.
That's a really good idea. I love that.
Then we've
So
got
you're saying it's a production setup then?
it is a production setup, yes. Other things in there is our Nimble setup. What Nimble is it basically is very similar to what you would see with an RTMP server, but it's more facilitatory for recording and SRT. So we send all of our inbound and outbound streams through it. It enables us to record clean copies of all of those, as well as it allows me to. I have a website hosted on it that allows a clean a feed of the program as well as the multi-view. So for our producers and stuff like that to see. And then the final one is just a PC running OBS, just as the final encoder. So we have all the machines. The only one ending up encoding and pushing to Twitch is that final system. It adds an additional layer of if anything else breaks, it can still keep going, as well as vMix's encoding is not as great compared to OBS. vMix does everything else more comprehensively than OBS does without like a gajillion add-ins, but its encoding is pretty mediocre. And then I've got my own personal servers in there for just like watching
Whatever.
movies and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like a media center. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
That's
that
cool.
sucker. Fortunately, I have broadcast on, so you can't hear how bloody loud that is.
I remember being in meetings with him, and you just hear like the hard drive just.
Well, that's not the hard drives. That's actually the 10 gig switch. That's just the 8 fans in that.
Wow.
It's loud.
Have similar, which can confirm.
See, I don't have that fancy of a setup. I got a pretty fancy, like for a streamer setup. You know, I got a gaming computer. I got a streaming computer, which I use capture card for. That way I can do like console streaming and like regular PC streaming. And so I'm not using NDI, just like physical HDMI cable to it, running straight into OBS Studio. Um, Sometimes I'll use Slobs, that Streamlabs OBS, but most of the time it's OBS Studio because I have pretty much everything configured in there, set up, and I really enjoy the two PC setup because one thing I noticed is without having the two PC setup, I'd always have to downgrade the quality of the game that I was playing, so the one PC could handle everything. I play a lot of like PUBG, Rainbow Six Siege, Destiny 2, a lot of like fast-paced like first-person shooters. So my graphics card's usually maxed out all the time. So having the extra computer really helps out.
Yeah, definitely. I know some streamer friends who find it much easier to have that whole setup on another computer. Chris, Dialomax.
Well, mine's pretty simple. I'm typically streaming the community game nights, so I'm not frequently streaming. I just have my gaming computer, cardioid condenser mic. I noticed neither of them mentioned what kind of mics they use, but hey, that's fine. Along with the headset, I will switch up headsets in between, whether I'm gaming or whether I'm doing other tasks. This is what I would call a basic headset. The nice thing about it is it's wireless, so I don't have to worry about having a cord get snagged somewhere. The downside is I'm a little bit pickier about quality. So when it comes to if I really want to get into a game, I'll typically pick up one of my higher end headsets. Nothing super crazy, but I do have a pair of Grados and a pair of Audio Technicas along with a few others. So depending upon what I'm listening to, I will switch those out, including when I'm streaming. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, along with the webcam, nothing terribly fancy on the webcam. Nothing fancy on the lighting either. I probably should replace the green screen. I had one, and then bad things happened, so I need another one. But yeah, it really nowadays it doesn't take a lot to stream. It kind of depends partially upon a multitude of factors. What games you're playing, your internet connection, and what your system was capable of doing. Some of the newer GPUs, most notably NVIDIA GPUs, actually do a pretty good job encoding on the GPU itself. So, if you have something like, say a 3060 Ti, 3070, 3080, I'm not going to say all the time, but a good portion of the time, you typically don't need a second gaming computer. It'll do all the work for you. There is still an advantage to a streaming computer. I have thought of putting one together because I would like to stream some Nintendo Switch games, and doing it otherwise without a streaming computer is a little bit, iffy.
Pain in the butt.
Yeah, but pain in the butt, iffy. However you want to go.
Yeah, I recently started streaming a year ago thanks to Bearded Berserker, who got all my settings set up, showed me how to use Streamlabs OBS, which is really beginner friendly, by the way, and being able to push that to Twitch and getting your sources set up. It's once you're set up, you're good to go. It's like everything is seamless from there. And yeah, I definitely recommend especially if you're trying to get into esports or get known for like your skill, that's like a whole different area, or trying to build some kind of brand for yourself. Like streaming would be a good way to get yourself out there. Someone had a question for Zorus specifically, Magical Zorus. Thank you for showing us your hardware setup. I'm running a Valorant tournaments and looking for better ways to run a broadcast at professional standards, or as close to it as possible. Is there any other software to use besides OBS to run replays? Could you give a workshop at some point on a list of hardware needs and an overall how to do?
I don't have any issue kind of going through a workshop. Like the one thing to be aware of is, while I do know how to do replays, I am not the guy I hired to do it, so I'm very slow at it. The big industry standard that's specific for remote broadcast is vMix. It has a really nice replay system built in, but it does
VMix?
cost money. vMix,
VMix.
VMIX. That's basically what most of my systems are running. vMix is for the remote broadcast, very much the standard. For replay specifically, your best option is remote is to jump on vMix and get yourself what we call, I think it's called a jog wheel. It's a little wheel, the USB wheel, allows you to go really, really quickly through that. vMix is generally the best way to go about it. And it allows you to do multiple stream ingest, so you can so for example, what we do often is our caster guy, or not caster, our replay guy is amazing. That he is able to handle. We send both feeds to him for both of our observers, and he'll get replays for stuff that isn't seen on screen, because we didn't switch to it. So that's a way to do it. It does require a certain level of crazy fast reflexes on that, though. You can go back quite easily. vMix has the caching system to go back, but generally with Valorant specifically, you still have a very short turnaround time to upgrade your broadcast to more professional. To get those, because you basically grab the replay, you trim it to get the perfect spot, then you can chuck it, and you can basically NDI it directly back to your tech director setup. Because that's basically the way we have it. Is we have the um, observers come in, and they come in to the TD, but they are also going directly to the replay. That's all facilitated through that Nimble box. But you can do that a number of different ways. NDI, it can do it without any issues as long as you have a switch that's not going to melt. But it really comes down to then you just NDI it back over to your tech director. So during those breaks, he can just switch to a scene that is playing your replays. If that makes any sense.
Right. Thank you for answering his question. Now a follow-up question to that. Can you give a quick money amount of average hardware costs for your setup? And that can always be taken off chat too on Discord if necessary.
I'm
You can
not.
spend.
I'm not.
You can spend as
You can
much
spend
as
a
you
lot.
want. You can spend as much
Maybe
as
the
you want.
minimum amount to spend for that
Well,
setup.
that's an incredibly tough thing, because and I don't mind sharing this because it's not really proprietary or anything along those lines. That setup, and that doesn't include my personal services and anything, but all of the production setup was about $15,000. So that's a bit up there. And big portions of that is our replay and our tech director machines have the Quattro 5000s in them. Yeah, which are the workstation cards. Their rendering power is amazing.
Wow.
But that allows us to really level up our setup, so we can go have like a lot of ingest and outgest of video. For getting started, really, you just need like an okay couple PCs, really. The definite recommendation is to have replays separate from your tech director. Because if you're the tech director, which is the guy who's switching the scenes, you're not going to be able to be fast enough to handle the other side of this, which is doing the replay. So generally, if you can get it just a couple gaming machines, put an OK switch and connect them together. Then have your guys just connect via Parsec. I cannot swear by Parsec enough. It is the best remote access software out there. It's designed for video gaming, so it also works real nice for production type setup.
So what do you think about the RTMP setup?
So RTMP is really awesome. Allows a whole bunch of external ingest, in and out ingest and outgest, but I don't think I'm using outgest correctly, but whatever. But
Output.
output, whatever. I'm a little bit more towards the SRT side of things, and obviously you can get a whole bunch of video tech and network guys, and they can argue till the cows come home, which is better. But for us, SRTs come a lot more handy for um, the idea of developing latency issues, or sorry, to combat latency issues. So we've run into a number of shows recently that we've had a caster in Germany or England or something like that. So what we've been able to do by you doing SRT stuff is it allows us to kind of really fiddle with the delays, and that's why I really like the Nimble box because it all runs through there. We can have the casters pull clean feeds directly off the Nimble box rather than wait for the delay of it going from the Nimble to the TD to the audio machine and then back out through, say, a vMix call.
Well, I mean, like, have you thought about just like spinning up like an AWS VM with like a GPU capability, and that way you can like eliminate some of the overhead of like the $15,000 system. You can just throw resources at it from like a AWS VM with what you need, spin it up, spin it down. Might cost you $500 for the weekend.
So we actually did that for our first show. What we found out is that it is pretty good for your, and you have to really bother Amazon to get them to do it right. By the way, it's not something you can just click the button and buy it. You've got to yell at them a bit. But we found that this was actually more cost effective long term for us. But obviously, we're a company that had funds because between the setup, because you have to, with AWS and with this, you have to do a lot of tweaking to make sure it runs nice and smoothly. We found that this ended up being a more cost effective because I could just leave it on and I could have people connect in at any time versus we'd have to schedule our guys specific times and we had to, not get overages and stuff like that because it does, especially when you're running vMix. vMix is a resource hog a lot. It's awful. Even when you're not doing anything, it just eats up so much resources that you can burn through. Like I think we were averaging like $300 a day for the set of VMs.
I guess.
So you're
go ahead.
No, I was like, so you're talking probably about $1,500 for an event, because usually you're about 5 days in on an event, versus like just the production value of the event.
Yeah, well, but it also depends on the size. So some of our bigger events, when there's $100,000, production budget on the line, it's like we have to do 2 to 3 tech rehearsals and 2 to 3 dress rehearsals. So sometimes you're looking at 7 or 8 days.
How do you
adds
deal
up.
with like the RTMP delays and making it more efficient?
So what we do is we adjust delays on our end and on the caster's end. So with the SRT, and I think you can do this with RTMP, you can add delay when you're pulling the clean feed directly in VLC, which is just a video player. And we can also add delay on our end. So we spend a lot of time during those dress rehearsals just having the casters sit there and CS:GO, Valorant all have all of it. Rocket League have usually a timer on the screen, so we just have them like count it out, and we just constantly are fiddling with it because it is different for every single show for us, just because we end up with casters all over the place.
Okay. Yeah, that I'll definitely. That was something someone asked in the chat, so
I
yeah,
guess
that helps a lot.
I wouldn't. One way you could potentially save money. Feel free to disagree with me if you want, Zors. If you know where to look, it's possible. I wouldn't do it perhaps for the production, where you're for the box where you're putting the GPUs in, because it's a little bit difficult to get them to a server chassis. But there's a number of places where you can get essentially off-lease servers to act for, either RTMP, basically your ingest servers, the replay servers, etc. And you can get them a little bit more cheaply than you can, putting together a desktop of an equivalent power. Sometimes, not all the times, but it can help a bit. You could put, I know of a few server stores where you could put together, getting something along the lines of a Dell PowerEdge R730. Throw in the appropriate amount of RAM. You don't, hard drives, etc. And it'll usually be a little, I guess the biggest things I would probably see as an advantage is if you need to cart this around in between events. Having a cart where you have rack mounted servers is a little bit easier to move than a bunch of individual PCs.
Oh, absolutely. So, funnily enough, these are all supposed to go into rack-mounted cases. Just thanks to our lovely coronavirus, I've been unable to buy the cases that I originally designed these all to fit in.
Wow.
So they've been out of stock for ages. They've started to come back into stock, but they're way overpriced right now, and I don't need them. They just sit here. So I'm waiting for them to come back. But there is server cases specifically. And to talk to your point on using like secondhand servers and stuff like that, that worked for some of the things. So for example, the Nimble, the audio machine, and the OBS encoder, that's all for the most part. You could use a GPU for the OBS encoder, but a good Xeon or anything like that would do it just fine on CPU. The things that would struggle were going to be your tech director, or I call TD, and your replay, because those really are heavy GPU. So those is where you need the more GPU focused.
I thought his name was TJ.
I had to think about that for a second.
I wanted to steer this conversation on the complete opposite end of high-end setups and talking about minimum setups. And with the majority of newer streamers getting on board are of the younger generation, and having a high-end setup or a high-end PC is not really in the budget. So what they're looking at is like, what is the most minimum amount I can spend, the minimum setup, the minimum software I can set up to be able to stream.
It kind of depends at that point what you're actually streaming. The more intense the game, the more it's going to take to run that game from the get go. So, and then tacking on streaming to that just adds to the workload of what your PC is doing at that point in time. I would say, let's say you were doing something relatively simple like streaming Minecraft. That, for the most part, unless you go heavy with shaders and mods, is a fairly lightweight game. At that point, you're looking at a pretty low end gaming PC that would be able to handle it. Something like an i3 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, because that's standard nowadays. Hard drive, case, etc. Kind of. Here's the thing. Technically, you could play Minecraft with the built-in GPU on an Intel CPU. It'll run kind of sort of okay for the most part. Again, depending upon what you have loaded on it. Adding streaming to it, even with QuickSync, you might struggle to get decent frame rates. So, could you do it? Yes. You just have to realize you're going to need to downgrade what you're sending out. You're not going to, with a basic budget PC, it's going to be very hard, even with a, basic game like Minecraft, to stream at, say, 1080p.
Most beginning streamers won't even do 1080p.
Yeah.
Because until you get to at least affiliate or higher in Twitch, you're at 720. So you shouldn't even they shouldn't even worry about it.
No.
Until they get that level.
what they should worry about hardware wise is one. I'm not saying go all out. Just get a decent PC, within your means. If at all possible, I would probably highly recommend getting an NVIDIA-based GPU, whether it's even something as like a GTX 1650 Super, for the simple reason that it has NVENC encoding, which does a lot of the work without really impacting the gaming performance. Second most, if at all possible, try and use a hardline network. In other words, Ethernet. I understand there are reasons why folks do not always have the option of using that because of where it's located in the household, and they just have to use Wi-Fi. But if at all possible, use an Ethernet connection.
To,
That is
to,
the
to
biggest
add to
one.
that, I used to have so many issues with streaming. My connection kept randomly dropping or lagging out, just like crazy stuff happening. And then I decided to, or someone mentioned, try plugging in directly with Ethernet. I'm like, what? What does that have to do with anything? And I did that. I've had zero issues since. And that was, quite a while back.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even have to be like my networking gears in separate rooms. And my camera cord isn't long enough to show it to you. But I have essentially a similar switch to what Zorse has. It's big, it's noisy, but it's entirely overkill for the vast majority of people. I love that face, Zorse. Um,
Overkill is overrated.
See, I'm a basic Betty. Like I only
Hmm.
recently got lucky where I got the two PC setup. I was always doing it from one, and like 90% of your issues can be resolved just from like configuring your OBS. The
Yes.
only thing that I would highly recommend is have a discrete graphics card. If you're
Yeah.
gonna stream, have a discrete graphics card. What that means is you're not using the graphics card in the chip. You just have like even like a 1060. I mean, for the longest time, I was even streaming with like a 760, 770. Then I moved up to a 1070. Right. So anything like 10 series or higher, you'll be Gucci when it comes to streaming.
Mm-hmm. I wish I could make the recommendation for using an AMD card. I have nothing with them, against them. It's just that unfortunately, when it comes to streaming, their built-in streaming solution on their cards isn't up to the same level. So it is what it is. Maybe at some point they'll improve it so that it could be a recommendation. But for if it's a brand you're looking for, well, it's going to be an NVIDIA GPU. But yeah, I mean, and I would say the other critical thing, again, you don't need to get a super expensive, mic and mixer, but get a decent one at least. The number of people I've been, I watched streaming for a simple reason that I couldn't stand how bad their audio was, is large. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's like that. I try and give people a lot of leeway because everybody starts off streaming. So, but there's only a certain point where I'm like, dude, you've been doing this for months and months now. How can you not upgrade your mic just a little bit? It doesn't need to be expensive, just something that's better than garbage.
So like one of the bigger things is like little things like a pop filter, right? You can
Mhm.
see that Grassel doesn't have the little foam on the mic. That helps with stopping like catching breathing sounds. I mean, if you do get like a stand-up mic, a little pop filter helps a lot, like block a lot of like your keyboard, your breathing, air, motion, whatever.
I have a nice professional mic set up on my work computer station to my right. So yeah, I definitely first thing I bought to add to it was a pop filter, and it makes your voice just sound much more clear.
Also, get a mic boom arm. Um, they I never call things cheap because everything is relative. But you could get decent mic arms off Amazon for without paying an
10
arm and a
bucks
leg. Yeah,
10,
20
$15.
bucks. Yeah.
USD.
And the amount they help by allowing good positioning, along with not picking up vibrations as you're typing on your desk, etc. It's a big thing. Definitely get one of those as well.
Nice. Awesome. Does anyone in the chat have questions? Someone said basically don't use your webcam mic. The webcam mic it'll pick up sounds from everywhere in the house. And sometimes I use it on my gaming machine when my mic just randomly stops working.
I mean, at that point, get you a mod mic. You put it on your headset. Great, relatively inexpensive mics.
Pull this thing out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, seeing where it's going to fit with all of my additions everywhere.
Let's see. I see a question about upload bandwidth needed. Stream on 6 megabits DSL. That kind of depends upon which direction you're talking. 6 megabits DSL. Typically, you're looking,
Up or down?
Your downstream, usually your upstream
6 is usually 6 and 300 kilobits.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the typical 6 megabit downstream, 300 kilobit upstream, I regret to be the one to inform you that that's not going to be happening. It's not going. You could try it, but it's not going to be fun times for you. And it's not going to be fun times for your audience. Bare minimum, I would say at least 10 megabits. The more, the better. Everybody, thanks to, if you're in the good old US of A, now everybody has great access to broadband. Some folks have access to some folks don't have access, period. Some folks have what I could best call a pair of cans attached with string. And then, so it's all over the place. Myself, personally, I have 300 megabits bidirectional, symmetrical, however you wish to call it, both upstream and downstream. So I'm not the norm. I'm pretty sure Grazzle has you have gigabit both directions, correct?
Gig symmetrical, yeah.
Yeah. So we are not the norm, but if at all possible, if you're like shopping around, seeing, okay, this provider offers me this and this provider offers me that, you're going to want to get, if at all possible, 10 megabits. The more, the merrier. There is a diminishing return after a certain point. I mean, it's not like you're going to be streaming 4K because, well, Twitch doesn't, broadcast 4K anyway.
Find a way. Yeah, it's I believe it's minimum for 720 is 6, and minimum for 1080p is 8. But that is just for the streams themselves. That assumes that you're doing nothing else on your network at the time, out to the internet.
Did you say 1080 is 10 or 8 megabytes?
You can get away with 8. We do recommend 10 because, well, it's really unlikely that you're doing nothing else but that.
See,
the other thing to think about is caps, data caps as well, since that's an awful thing. Especially if you're streaming 1080p, it will burn through your data caps quite quickly.
I'm typing down some of those responses. Good information.
Your data caps will go higher than GME stock, all right?
Yeah, that's definitely something to really look into. All right. Any other questions from the stream?
Oh, I just thought of something, though. Back to the original question about the minimum PCs. The best way to do it, if you're looking, is hold off for a bit. And Lanfest will probably in the near future, I don't actually have any dates and know nothing about it. We do the PC builds every once in a while. Those are deals. Like, you want a good gaming PC that'll stream for dirt cheap? Keep an eye out.
And they usually get different options, like the lower level, the mid-level, and a higher level tier. So it makes it affordable for different people.
Yep.
Yeah, that high level was like, it was like a $2,000 PC for like $1,000 or something insane. I'm just like,
yeah,
I needed one, and I already had a PC, so I couldn't justify it. But it was so tempting because it was such a good deal.
And here's the best part: like, if you don't know how to build a PC, well, guess what? You're gonna have an instructor that's gonna lead you through it.
Yep.
And it's him.
Well, it's him or somebody else. But yeah, it's a nice little thing that we do. Again, I'm not sure when we have them on the next one coming up. I know, speaking with the logistics crew, that it has been interesting trying to source a graphics card for these builds. Being the GPU market being what it is, but I do believe that they have managed to wrangle some after much to do. I can't say much more than about that, but they are working on getting that list put together and then everything sent out. I'm guessing their nice little thing is as you get walked through it, as we stream the build, if you have any questions, you can ask it to the builder. If you still don't get, we have folks, other instructors in the Discord that are available to help with any nagging issues, like I can't figure out where to put this part, or this is happening when I'm doing that. So it's a real nice thing, I guess.
Yeah, it's a full team behind it.
Yeah,
it's such a good feeling to be able to like look at your computer and know that you built it. You're the one that put it all together. I've always built my own PC since day one until the last year I decided to buy a pre-built one because I had a lot of custom work done to it, and then I had to send it out to get a design company to completely do a whole paint job, like high-end paint job on it, um, with my gamer tag. And yeah, and the case is different. It has like a LCD screen and stuff like that. But
I guess
yeah.
to swing around to the other subject insofar as bandwidth, not everybody has a big old choice of providers, and all too many cases you have a choice, and that's it. Either you go with the provider in your area and have internet, or you don't. I guess one other thing that folks want to keep in mind is what you're using to connect to the internet, in terms of the router, will impact your experience, whether it's streaming or not, but it does definitely affect streaming. Um, Not all providers provide the world's greatest router. So there may be times where it's actually a good idea to simply replace that. It can actually help out with streaming.
And to add to the router, one thing I've noticed is plugging in different Ethernet cords will
Mm-hmm.
give me a different result for my upload and download speed. So just having like a higher, like a newer Cat 5, Cat 6. What's the newest
Cat
one?
5.
Cat
Cat
5.
Yeah,
5
well,
is,
Cat 5e is the kind of standard, but you can get Cat 6,
yeah.
Cat 6a, that sort of thing.
Yeah, you can get that. Or if you're, well, you're never going to hook up fiber optic. Well, most home users aren't going to be hooking up fiber optic to their home, to their internet connections. Yes, Grazzle, I'm well aware that you have fiber there. I'm also aware that I have fiber. But we both recognize that we are both slightly insane.
Slightly?
Not slightly, completely, but that's besides the point.
But the one thing now I'm thinking about this that's really important to mention is what happens if you have some questions on this? Would you go to the Lanfest Discord and ask some of the tech representatives that we have in there?
Absolutely
I don't know.
not. They don't know anything.
Oh wow. Okay. Brian was now banned from the Lanfest server.
Yeah. There's something about Corey. Yeah.
Cat 7 or bust. I agree with that.
Um,
But yeah, no, the Discords are 100%. Like, even if people don't know, they can find somebody, or they'll point you somewhere. Sometimes they'll even give you a "let me Google that for you" link.
And another thing to add to routers is one thing I've learned about the technology with routers. I never knew this until my dad wanted to talk for and countless hours on it. But there's Wi-Fi 5 routers and there's Wi-Fi 6 routers,
Mm-hmm.
and Wi-Fi 6 can handle a lot more bandwidth through the router. And I'm like, okay, it's time to upgrade, and it can also handle a better Wi-Fi connection on fiber, because
Mm-hmm.
right now Wi-Fi 5 cuts you off at 500 on fiber, and with Wi-Fi 6 you can get probably 250 more megabytes added.
just
So
be
it's just
aware
At
that
least,
both the router and the computer both have to, or whatever
yeah.
device, have to support it. You can connect a computer that doesn't support it up to it, but you're not going to be able to get the full experience.
Yeah, you'll be limited by your access computer.
Uh-oh, someone just said DOCSIS 3.1. Oh, no. Look, man.
New phone, who dis?
Yeah, that's just taking cable and just pushing it to its limit. We need to go fiber to the home for all of consumers in the United States. DOCSIS is just... anyway. I could rant on that.
Yeah, we can all rant on it for a while. I mean, I know Comcast in my area at least. I'm not going to go too in depth because it's kind of getting off topic, but they are actually running fiber to the main network node in the neighborhood, and then from there it runs copper. So it's still not to the household or even to the curb, but they're at least bringing in fiber closer.
It's a start.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said Wi-Fi MIMO routers would be first to reduce Wi-Fi issues before Wi-Fi 6.
Well, yes and no. It partially depends. The thing with MIMO, just like Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 5, your device has to support it. So let's say you get a Wi-Fi router that supports MU-MIMO. Does that help? Yes, but it only helps if the client devices also support it, and not all client devices do. It's not a bad idea. I mean, it's definitely not a bad thing to get, but it's just something to keep in mind. If you have a bunch of older Wi-Fi devices, and heck, even some of the newer Wi-Fi devices don't necessarily support it, you're not necessarily going to see the improvement that you would think.
Well, MIMO itself, even if you have older devices, still come in a lot of handy when you have a lot of devices, because it is also better at handling a massive amount. So if you're in a family household with a whole bunch of people on their phones and stuff, MIMO might give you a better benefit of the fact that, hey, my cousin, my brother, and why did the chat just explode? That's Brian. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it might help you there where they're like hogging the Wi-Fi bandwidth, but that's about it. Yeah, lots of options though. But yes, fiber to the home, guys. But yeah, in the answer to the doctor's question, in seriousness, if you can get it, it is better than not having it. DOCSIS 3.1, I believe, is pushing cable to the ability to go up to 500 or 700, somewhere in I can't remember the exact specs.
It's actually a gigabit, technically. DOCSIS
That's
3.
Technically.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have overhead and all that fun stuff. Whether or not they've implemented it to the point where it can actually do that kind of speed will vary from provider to provider. But DOCSIS 3 was actually up to 768 megabits per second. 3.1 is around a gigabit, give or take, network overhead and all that fun stuff.
Okay, so let's bring it back now. What does any of that have to do with streaming? Why do I care about any one of those Wi-Fi types when we just talked about like Ethernet's better?
It comes down to is like being able to make sure your stream is basically fragment free, drops free, that sort of thing. Because paying attention to, like, say, your frame drops while you're streaming is really important. And there's two things that can cause that primarily. And is your computer encoding that video and sending it out, versus the fact that the network connection between you and the Twitch or Facebook or Mixer still not around, or wherever you're streaming to, is garbage. So those are your two main things. So paying attention to where your frame drops are, because a lot of people are going to basically tune out if you're a robot on stream. Pixelated, you sound like a robot, unless you're doing that on purpose. Brian is now doing it on purpose. But that's kind of where it's important. And yes, unfortunately, a number of us, especially in the chat, I can see all the network guys getting excited talking about network stuff. But that's kind of the big thing there is that when you're developing your stream, you're wanting to build an audience. The things that matter are going to be your consistency and the quality of your stream. You want to be you want them to consistently join your stream, to engage, that sort of thing. That's what gets your numbers up. That's what you get you partnered, affiliated, all of that jazz. So, a big thing about making it a fun, engaging, and also kind of issue free, which is not necessarily always possible, but at least as many issues as you can mitigate, um, will help you grow that audience.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And to that point, a little bit more. One thing you can do without necessarily changing your internet provider and a bunch of hardware is simply a setting OBS to just double check and make sure you're streaming to the best endpoint that you can. Twitch has a whole bunch of endpoints all over the country. They are ingest servers that you're streaming to. And usually, if you're doing an automatic setup of OBS, it'll typically pick a good one for you. From time to time, that could change for the worse. Things can happen with the network in between you and that endpoint that may not immediately impact you, but at some point in time later do. So do keep that in mind. If you notice that all of a sudden you were streaming just fine all of a few days ago, and now your stream is just absolutely garbage, you come out as a robot, you're dropping frames, etc. But otherwise, let's say your internet connection is fine. You do a speed test, you get good speeds with no lost packets. You're able to browse and game all that normally. Well, it could be for some reason or another that's no longer the optimal ingest server for you. So keep that in mind.
And to also add to that, when you first start streaming, from my experience, you're going to spend a lot of your first few streams kind of just tweaking your settings, tweaking everything. Have a friend watching on the other side to kind of help you. Oh, it looks like, it's not fitting correctly in the canvas, or your game is smaller than the window. And then you just like slowly tweak things. And then soon it'll end up just being flawless. One thing I want to add and do a quick plug for Landfest. Um, if you go to donate.landfest.com and make donations, and if we hit $7,777, the lucky number, right? We'll call it a lucky number. Several people will shave their heads. I kind of want to know who's on that list. Not you. Why not?
Nope.
Should I add myself to the list? But
All right, be right back. Getting $5,000. Let's go.
And looks like we are hitting 3 minutes to the hour. So if anyone has a quick question that someone can answer, now is the time. Stylomax has the same headset as I do.
Yeah, it's a Corsair Void Pro. It's not bad. I'm not gonna recognize. It works well for gaming. Basic stuff. For the pickier folks, they would jump all over me to recommend a gaming headset. But if you were an audiophile, but
What was I got when we had the LAN all night? I got the Corsair something, and it was a really nice headset. I just, for me personally, like when I have a headset for like streaming, I gotta have a headset that lets me have chat audio and game audio and like a mixer, and let me just deal with it in my ears however I want.
Oh wow. Yeah, I've been thinking about changing my setup to have a mixer in a way.
my Still series has that. It's very helpful. Especially if you're doing streaming. So like when we set up the Among Us stream last night, we're doing the proximity audio. So what I ended up doing is to be able to get the whole thing to push out via the stream, I had Discord go to the chat, and most of my other system sounds go to the chat side. Among Us and the proximity chat go to the game side, and then that went out onto OBS, which then from OBS I went in monitoring it. This is getting really complicated, I know. I monitored to a different audio source that it just was a set of speakers that turned off, popped out the OBS window, and then streamed it to Discord. Incredibly complicated, but having those additional audio devices to kind of play with is really helpful. And you can like at least with mine, I can press the button and I can adjust. Oh, I want more game or I want more chat, which is really nice.
And to speak a little bit more to that point, uh, one thing that's always recommended, if at all possible, is to get a mixer. A lot of folks recommend a hardware mixer. That's what I recommend as well. But since not everybody can afford that cost, there are software solutions that'll do a similar function. One of the more popular ones, and I've tried it out, and it works actually pretty well. It's called VB Audio. It basically lets you do a lot of software versions. I'm not saying it's perfect, Grazzle. I know. I see that face you're making.
That has crashed many a live production for me. Like,
yes,
it's necessary.
I'm not recommending it for that kind of environment, but for people that don't have the money to spare for an actual hardware mixer and just want to do similar things where they can mix audio levels of various sources, it is an option.
It very much is. Just be aware that it tends to crash.
Mm-hmm.
Right when you don't want it to.
What works for some people doesn't work for some people.
Yes. I've used it. I've been lucky, I suppose, and I haven't had it crash. However, I don't use it all the time, so maybe it's simply a matter of me being lucky.
So like for like a good like hardware mixer, I mean this is kind of basic, kind of like low entry level, but still kind of more on the expensive side is the Go XLR.
Yeah, I mean there are two versions of it: the Go XLR and the Go XLR Pro.
I think I spelled it right.
Not quite. Yeah, that's correct. The Go XLR Pro is the one that's more expensive. Behringer, some of their mixers are okay. I'm trying to remember model numbers, and I can't at this point.
They're even more expensive most of the time than the Go LXLRs, and you generally have to have you need to have the headset set for it. So we use a lot of the Behringer multi-channel stuff for like in-person productions because we have, the fancy headsets that connect to the different. Why is my brain not working?
Like SDI.
Yeah.
XLR plugs is primarily. There's a red one that's fairly cheap if you're gonna go that route. The Scarlet something.
Oh, the Scarlet Solo, maybe?
Yes, Scarlet Solo is pretty good. We use those for our kits that we send out for different casters and celebrities and stuff. So the Scarlet Solo with the nice headset.
I use that exact item on my other setup, but I haven't really figured out how to use it to its full advantage.
I guess like I laugh like we talk about all these fancy ones like you can piece together like very like inexpensive high quality setups, probably for about $200 you can get a hardware like channel device, an XLR mic, all of these inputs and outputs that you need. But it really boils down to like what you're wanting when you're streaming. Because you can get a lot of just like non-wireless headsets and microphone setups, and just they'll be crystal clear. It'll be everything you want. Or you can pay a lot more money and get like wireless setups that have multi-channels and go that route.
Oh yeah, like this is a $200 something headset. It was very expensive, but I like the idea that it's wireless, so I can be in meetings and then go cook dinner.
Even though I absolutely love my headphones, I will never do a wired headset again. If I can count total how many times I've tripped over my headset wire or tripped over it and spilt stuff off my desk, like, oh my God, it's a very big number. I start getting angry at my headphones. Like, I will get rid of you. And there's so many options for wireless headsets though. Still researching. All right, I am waiting for the tech person to get back to me. Let's see, any other questions from chat, from the Twitch stream?
Well,
It's on the toilet for the win.
Before that, last minute to get your last minute registration for the raffle.
Ooh, lots of prizes.
Yeah. Lots of good ones in there. I've seen some of them. You don't want to miss it.
Someone said, just remember mute. My boss didn't.
Oh, God. Killer.
I was in a work meeting the other day and someone flushed the toilet.
Oh, jeez.
You have to remember that mute button. Like if you,
well, that's
even
the
if
entire
you're sneezing or something.
That's part of the reason I actually
Coughing.
like this particular wireless headset. Again, when it comes to audio quality, I have some that are a bit better, but for convenience, I definitely like the wireless. This, like several others, when you flip up the microphone, it mutes the microphone source. So, big plus there.
I like that. The one thing I don't like about the HyperX is like I'm like fishing in the wire just to get to the button where it says mute. It'd be nice to just like push a button somewhere up here, rather than like struggling to find it. Oh, I guess I'm supposed to clip it on my shirt, but it's just so much wire. It's like it's in my way when I clip it on myself. Someone asked a question, a very, very important question. The bearded berserker. Why are you so rugged with your beard?
It's because of chopped wood, like a lumberjack.
Wood. He wants to look like a lumberjack.
Oh, now my brain's singing the.
That song. Yep, I knew it. I knew it the second you said it.
Monty Python.
Yep.
I don't think that song is PG rated, so please don't look it up if you're under.
It's somewhere
13.
around PG-13.
Yeah. Final thought, like something Gary mentioned earlier in the chat, that our panel is more to talk about the technology that kind of streaming is based off of. But the one thing he mentioned, and I think it is important to really mention, is some of the streamers get incredibly popular on garbage technology. Technology is only it is a big part of it, but it's not the most important.
Right.
It really comes down to you want to have content that people are excited and interested to join. And if you're bored, they probably are too.
Yeah.
And building a community, it's all about the people there and seeing similar faces and growing that. And there's another, there's a recorded Lanfest panel that discuss on how to build your brand with streaming.
Yeah. I remember watching that one. I had put together the folks at the group that answered those questions. We've already covered, that you want to be consistent. Grass will point out that you want it to be something that you enjoy playing. You don't necessarily focus on playing what is the most popular game to be played on Twitch. If you're going to try and be, a standout, and you're playing like Valorant, which everybody and their grandmother is playing on Twitch right now, unless you're at a skill level that is basically meeting the real high end Twitch players, it's going to be real difficult for you to get noticed. I'm not saying you can't. You're always free to play what you want. But
I did notice that when I play a popular game, like I'll get almost no viewers, and then I'll play like a different, more unique game, and then all of a sudden a bunch of viewers show up from nowhere.
Yeah.
Because there's like not a lot of options for streamers. Like, once you start streaming, you're at the bottom of the list. How many people are on that, Twitch list? 3,000 versus, 150.
Yep. So keep that in mind when you're streaming. I'm not saying you have to go find the least popular game and then start playing it, whether you like it or not, simply to try and get viewers. That's not the case. Just keep that in mind that if you're going to play a more popular game, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to attract folks to watch your stream at first if you're being drowned out by a bunch of professionals and other talents that are already established. So, keep plugging at it, keep playing it. Don't be afraid to switch to other games as well that you enjoy playing, though.
Or you can come stream on our channel and build your following there.
That to that point, don't be afraid to streaming for other channels like ours. That's fine. You also need to develop those relationships with other streamers. A lot of streamers have gotten big with the help of by partnering with other streamers. It becomes they're greater than the sum of their parts. Folks have gotten those because not necessarily that they partner with a big streamer, although that's happened, but communities have grown for the simple reason of you have multiple streamers getting together and playing one game together, whether it's Among Us, Fortnite, one of multiple games where you can group up and play at once. Don't be afraid to do that with our streamers as well. Building those social connections is very, very, very important.
I love that when people jump on the stream and say, "Hey, you looking to play with other people?" I'm just like, "Yeah, jump on. Let's go."
Mm-hmm.
Let's wreck some noobs or get wrecked by pros. One of the two. It's never a noob that kills me. It's always a pro or a hacker. Always a pro or a hacker.
That's
Just remember
how it
that.
is, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Man, there's a lot more pros and hackers out there than I ever thought.
Get good, noob.
Right.
We were asked boxers or briefs for some reason.
Boxers.
Boxer briefs.
Oh wait.
Yeah,
Oops.
boxer briefs.
Boxer briefs, yes.
Trick question. Commando.
Oh God!
Oh.
Please don't make
Oh.
that.
Pixar
This is a
didn't
PG
happen.
stream. Oh God! This is a PG stream. Please no.
Yeah,
90s meme.
this was a PG stream, and now
Still is.
It still is. Unfortunately, the mental image for some people has been changed from a PG stream.
We're all fired.
Yeah.
Darn it.
See, this is why you don't let the tech people go on breaks, because then we put in the hour. Now it's degrading.
Wait. Nah, I won't feed into that.
No. We're not talking about cheese degrading. All right. Is that when you take like the shredded cheese and put it back together, degrading it?
Yeah, keep with streaming because comedy is not your forte there.
Okay, all right. I will end this comedic performance with like my new favorite joke. Did you know 10 plus 10 and 11 plus 11 equal the same thing?
No, they don't.
Okay, what's 10 plus 10?
20.
What's 11 plus 11?
I see where you're going with this.
What's 11 plus 11?
I hate you. I hate you so much. This is next level dad joke, and I'm not going to feed into it.
I'm going to use that on my kids. I am using that joke. Because they're going to be like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Like, Mom.
Thank you, TikTok. You are the worst thing in my life right now, and I'm happy for it.
Oh, no.
I know the tech person said we were done at 3 p.m. PST, but I'm waiting for this person to come back alive.
We're here all night.
We're the new stream.
We got about 30 people who joined at the end.
If anyone has questions on any topic, whoa! I just noticed the viewers. Hey, yeah, we had definitely a big jump in viewer count. Anyone have any questions in any areas? We're an open book. They're an open book. I'll choose to be an open book or not.
I'll answer any question. Just don't ask a question you can't handle the answer for.
Oh,
please don't. I've already made that mistake.
Okay, here you go. Nerd jokes. When does a kid joke become an adult joke? When it becomes apparent.
Oh no.
That's my fake laughter. That's kind of a laugh. Like I have to push it out. It's a real laugh that I have to kind of push out.
I am definitely wearing a kilt, but I'm not going to show you.
Brian, you stood up on the stream earlier. We saw that you were wearing pants.
Zorth, what's the worst moment you had to overcome when running a tournament broadcasting?
Actually, a valid
48
question.
hours without sleep.
No, that was no 5 days without sleep is my longest for a show, but that wasn't for a broadcast. The biggest one was we were running I think that was like $300,000 in that whole stage and broadcasty thing. Don't quote me. I was not on budget team. And
Somebody
all of the
clip that.
EA servers went down just for 2 hours. So we basically
Oh
had
my
to
goodness.
just sit there while very, very important people were basically sweating bullets. That wasn't really a big thing that we could overcome. Basically, we just had to build out some caster time to talk through. Hey, here's what's going on, and filler. As far as actual issues, we've had a couple times where we've had to work around network outages, big ones where we've had to kind of cobble together like a couple smaller network connections because the bigger one had got fiber cuts.
Yes, I remember those.
What about the wonderful time when Steam updates in the middle of a tournament?
We've done that a couple times. All of my PAX ones seem to be cursed because Fortnite updated in the middle of our tournament once. We had the Apex outage and stuff like that. People are asking me to show them my rack. I'm offended. That was PAX East. J Magic last? No. 2019. No. 2020. All of the years have blurred together. Yes, PAX East 2020. But we've had a number of pretty serious stuff that you have to work around. The biggest thing is that if you add layers of redundancy, people are going to be. It's going to be easier for you. So that's like one of the reasons our setup has that separate OBS encoding machine. I'm going to have to censor myself a little bit here because what we call it is a swear word, but we have the poop screen on there, which is basically the if like the TD machine or something goes down,
The technical difficulty screen.
it is a technical difficulty screen. That is incredibly helpful because it allows because we'll have someone connected to that and they'll just switch to that if there's an issue and everything goes down, then we can keep moving forward. Having those additional layers of redundancy will make yourself a lot easier. And unless you're doing something that is like a $500,000 broadcast, a little bit of downtime isn't going to hurt you. It's when you have a $500,000 broadcast where we're wanting like 50,000, 100,000 people, and a cut like that will actually hurt you. Otherwise, it's not going to matter. No one is like people get a little bummed out when any of the big streamers have a technical issue and go down, but they generally don't care. That person will come back up and yay, it's all good, and then it's PogChamp in the chat for the next 20 minutes.
And it keeps people from asking over and over again, when is it going to start? When is it going to start? More people will understand. Oh, they're trying to fix something. I'll be patient and wait. So it looks like our tech person is back, and we're going to do a countdown and to a commercial break. So,
all right.
Let's see.
So we get a thank you, Tessa.
Yes.
A thank you, Chris.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you,
And providing all this information, all this resources for others. And I know J Magic is going to be taking in a lot of that information for the Valorant tournament, and he just started, especially with the setup, and maybe a technical difficulty screen would be helpful. And yeah, thank you so much. The viewers said thank you, and they said change the text screen to the live cat video.
just the cat screen.
The Lanfest has the live cat video, which is super cute.
The catathon.
But yeah, well, thank you very much. I am going to go ahead and end it here. Talk to you later, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the event. Bye-bye.
Raffle, 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 raffle.